I'm coming to you from the UK. An absolute privilege to be with the hair brain community this evening. I'm going to be doing a short pixie haircut for you today. I'm going to be going through some of the tricks and tips of how to create a salon-friendly short pixie haircut. I have one that I did earlier. So this is a brief example of the shape we're going to be doing this evening, creating quite a flat silhouette, but whilst maintaining length around the nape and maintaining length around the ears. So let's just briefly, because I know you're here to watch me cut hair, you'll see I've sectioned the top into two areas directly off the middle. Okay, so this is going to make sure that we keep the length on top till the end and keep it nice and safe. We've worked with the radial section and isolated the back from the front. Okay, here we're going to be doing a round graduation, which is going to help us to create a more graduated feel to the front, allowing us to maintain length over the ear, but direct the weight backwards. Here I'm going to create more of a vertical graduation, which is going to be flatter. It's going to enable me to keep more length at the hairlines. This is ideal for a client of yours if the client would like a short haircut, but perhaps they've got a difficult hairline, or perhaps they just do not like their ears, something like that. This is a great haircut for that type of client. We're going to begin this at the back today. We're going to begin by taking our sections just slightly off the vertical. We're going to be working on a very slight forward diagonal. So you've just joined us. My name is Ben Brown. I'm thrilled to be here with you today, all the way from the United Kingdom. Let me know where you're from. Say hi, whatever you want to do, ask any questions. That's what I'm here for this evening. I'm going to be going through a short pixie haircut with you. The haircut we're going to be recreating is one I did a couple of weeks ago for my online education site, which essentially is how to create a short haircut whilst maintaining length around the ears and the hairline. So let's get started. First section is just slightly on a diagonal. Why is it on a diagonal? By taking it on a slight diagonal, we're controlling the fact that the weight will travel in a slight angle towards the front, giving us a more softer shape. Now what you want to look at with your elevation, firstly, elevation is moving the hair up and down. So the lower I pull this section, ultimately the more heavier the top of the section is going to be. The more I lift it, the more layered the appearance. But ultimately I know anything below the base of my section is going to graduate. So I don't necessarily have to go dead low to achieve a heavier or graduated look. So whatever length we choose to cut this position at the top here gives us total control over where the weight will start to sit in the haircut. So as I'm coming down, you'll see that my vertical shape is triangle. What does that mean? That means that my vertical shape is going from short at the bottom to longer at the top. As I get towards the bottom, and I've got roughly an inch left, as I'm cutting, you'll notice I'm pulling my hands away. What on earth are you doing? Well, this is helping me to connect in some length towards the outline. So when I've dried the hair off, I can personalize that to suit the client's hairline more. This is the tip, this is the technique that will help us, prevent us from going too short on the hairline. So let's replay that for you. We pulled the section out, straight out from the head slightly tilted forward. We come down vertically, I'm just going to drop more off, vertically triangular. As we get to the last inch of the hairline, I start to cut very fast. Fast scissors, slow hand, and I moved away. This is giving me a slicing feel, which is enabling me to maintain length. But you can see the silhouette, soft and flat, nice and graduated. Welcome everybody, if you've just joined us. My name is Ben Brown, all the way from the United Kingdom. Really excited to spend my evening with you. If it's your morning, if it's your evening, whatever it is, let us know where you're from. Let us know if what you want to know, what you want to learn. We're going to be going through a short pixie haircut for you today. The main lesson from this particular tutorial is how to keep length, how to create a shorter, flatter graduated look while still maintaining length around the hairline and over the ears. Now, we covered elevation, which is moving the hair up and down. Now we're going to cover over direction, which is moving the hair side to side. If I was to over direct section 2 onto the base of section 1, what would happen? It's going to give me an increase in length, isn't it? It means section 2 is going to be a little bit longer than section 1. So if I continued that all the way across from section 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, it's going to get longer towards here. I don't really want that. I want it to maintain the same length. This means I want a round horizontal shape and a vertically triangular shape. So I want the shape traveling side to side to remain the same. To achieve this, I need to use over direction. So what I'm going to do in my over direction is I want section 3 that I'm just taking now. We've just established if I was to over direct section 3 onto 2, it's going to give me an increase of length, which we've just said we don't want to do that. Now if I pull 2 onto the base of 3, that'll decrease the length. So what are we going to do? We want sections 2 and sections 3 that I'm cutting at the moment to meet directly in the middle of one another, whilst maintaining the vertically triangular shape that we've already put in. But by meeting in the middle, let's call it 2.5. So when I meet at 2.5, this is giving me the opportunity to ensure that both those sections are cut to exactly the same length. Any questions so far? I haven't done a live in a long time, so I'm thrilled to be back at it doing it. I want to also thank Hair Art for very generously giving me this mannequin head to use for you this evening. It is beautiful. So you see, as I take my section, you can start to see my guideline. So the up and down is one of the main controls to the shape going from top to bottom. The side to side is one of the main controls to building how the shape expands forward or backwards. We are wanting a shape that is longer around the nape, shorter around the nape, getting longer towards the crown. Okay, ignoring the little technique that we are applying at the roots of the nape for a moment. That's what we're after. But at the sides, we're not wanting the hair to be getting longer to behind the ear, so we maintain a round horizontal shape. All the core, well, for me, the way I understand how to use core shapes is I look at them as each core shape has a significant outcome, has a very different outcome to one another. A round shape will follow the head shape. Working square really means you're working flat, so you'd have a flat line either parallel to the walls, parallel to the ceiling, or the section you're taking. And triangular means that we are directing length into certain areas. But all three of those particular methods determine a specific outcome. That's how we choose them. Working round builds no length, no increase of length. It doesn't build any corners. Working flat will build length, but only as the head rounds. So it builds corners for us and gives us a slow increase of length. Whilst working triangular gives us a rapid increase of length. So that's how I use the terms square, circle, triangle. It's going to be different for a lot of people. I'm certainly not telling you that's exactly what you should do, but it's the way that I was able to grasp how to use it. So you see, as I come down here, and my final section, beautiful, sitting really nice. So my final section, I only ever want to have two sections in my hand at once, so you always remove what you just used as the guideline and then just keep the previous section. Make sure the previous section and your new section, your cutting section, meet in the middle of one another. And what that's going to give us is a nice flat silhouette, not too much weight. We are longer at the top than we are at the bottom, but then we've also maintained length around the outline or the perimeter. Now we're going to switch to the other side. Hello from Poland. Hello to you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Wherever you are, wherever you're from, we're going to aim to try to deliver something significant you can use on the salon floor, not just try and inspire you, but something that you'll take away and use with your clients. Now, as I switch sides, the other side I was cutting like this, which made my life very easy when I came to do the curved slicing technique. When I come to this side, I have to switch my hand, because as you're coming like this across, you can't then maintain that on the other side. You need to switch your hand round. This now means that the scissors are coming from the bottom up, so it's a little bit different in how we create the longer outline. The first section is cut to the guide, as is the second section. It's only really the last inch that we look at creating any curve. So now you have to come from the bottom, and you are freehanding an artificial curve into the hairline. This is helping you to maintain the length on the outline. This is not the end result length. We will go a little shorter. Well, you'll go whatever length will suit your client, to be honest with you. If your client has a relatively low hairline, or if they have a particular feature they want to cover or suit, I would work specifically to the individual. I would never really take one template of a haircut and think that suits all. I think you need to look at how and where and why to vary certain concepts and certain rules of haircutting to ensure that you do give your client something that is bespoke to them and not just placed on them. And there you go, the silhouette is sitting quite nice now. We have the graduation on top, determined by my choice of length and elevation and distribution. As we come around to the sides, the length is maintained, but as we come towards the hair, and of course we're leaving a little bit of length there. You could razor cut this, of course you could. There's absolutely no reason why you couldn't use a razor. I'm just someone who just enjoys using scissors. I do think razors are fabulous and they're great to use, but I do prefer my scissors. So again, if you've just joined us, my name's Ben Brown. You're joining me tonight from my home in the United Kingdom, in England. I'm going to be taking you through a short pixie haircut, but the real lesson of this particular tutorial I'm giving you is how to maintain length around the client's hairline but still achieve a short haircut, how to maintain length over the ear but still create a flat haircut and shorter haircut and softer haircut, and not end up with something that looks like a wedge, or something that looks like it's too traditional, or something that requires far too much texturizing when you've got the hair dry. You ever have that? I sure did, where I would do a short haircut, I'd get it dry, and it would need so much work once I got the turn the dryer off. Turn this mannequin around a bit. Again, any questions I see coming up, I'll do my very best to answer them. I am working with alone this evening. Isn't that sad? Don't have anyone to help me, but I've got my phone mounted on a tripod, so I'll keep my eye on it. If there's anyone who wants to ask a question, please let me know. The first time I ever did a live actually was in California, and I'd flown out to America for the second time to teach out there, which was amazing. I was teaching in Murrieta, just south of Los Angeles, and I met up with Kelly, one of the owners of Hairbrained, and she filmed me and did a great live. I did a graduated bob, and it was such a great. It was a big moment for me. I'd always been a fan of Hairbrained. I'd always like, you know, watched and tagged them and whatever came up, you know, whatever was being shown, I was always very keen to watch. So as you're checking your haircut, this should be round, remember, not flat. So don't go in and start to take off the roundness. That should be there. It should follow the head shape. That's the idea. You can kind of see how that follows. So we've got to the point where the back section is complete. Okay, so you see I'm doing this a bit like salon time, so not spending too long just talking, what have you, but yeah, it is sitting nice. We're going to come to the sides now. Now the objective here was, if I had maintained this particular method of working forward, we would have been directing weight or length towards the front of the face. That would have created a lot of flatness around the front, and it would have relied on me doing a lot of texturizing when I got the hair dry. So we're going to change the cut now. We're going to go, instead of working from the back forward, we are actually going to be working from the front backwards. So we're going to be working with a round graduation technique, which means that the horizontal shape is following the head shape. Now as the hair dries, it's always going to start to set, so I always put a little clip in somewhere to control how the hair dries. I'm always very much aware that obviously the keratin in the hair changes, doesn't it, from wet to dry. The hair will change when the hair is obviously cold. It's not malleable. You get it hot, you change the shape, you let it cool to set the shape. But you see, as the hair is drying, it's going to start to set my shape. So I don't want a problem when I come to wrap dry. Okay, so what we've got here is the side shape. Now, with your diagonal section here, the reason I'm going to work with a diagonal that is sitting close to the vertical line, so let's say 12 o'clock, sitting close to 12 o'clock, is that the higher my cutting section, it lends itself more to a more flatter, softer graduated shape. Whereas if I go quite low with my cutting section, that'll lend itself more to building a heavier graduated shape. So I'm not looking for a heavier shape, I'm looking for a softer shape. So we're going to start with a diagonal back section. Keep your sections nice and clean, Ben, come on. So my diagonal is working close to the vertical, and we've discussed why, because that's going to give me a little bit more control over getting my shape to look softer. Now as I pull this straight out, the elevation again, if I pull this elevation down, it'll increase the length on this section here, which I don't really need. If I go too high, we're in the danger zone. We're going to start to layer and go too short. So we're looking to pull the hair straight out from the head. And I'm going to be cutting a vertically triangular shape. But my cutting section, my distribution, my finger angle will not be low. It'll be quite high. So as I come down, as I get towards the bottom of my shape, I do the same technique again. Keeping a little bit of length. So what this is giving us so far is my vertical shape. As I pulled it out, I'm just going to go a little bit shorter. Always keep too much length when I do a live. And as I curve round, that helps to flatten but maintain length over the ear for our client. Now my next section is going to be a parallel section, so it's going to be working on the diagonal that we've already set. And there's going to be no other direction, so we want sections 2 and 1 to do the same thing we did at the back. We want them to meet in the middle. Okay. So as we pull this out, so the section goes down and then it expands in a curved way due to the slicing technique. So I'm keeping an eye if there's any questions going, but I think everyone's seems to be getting it, which is good. We will be saving this live and sharing it on the Facebook page. So do keep an eye out for that. If you've missed any of the tutorial, don't worry. It will be shared once it's finished. That's sounding great. There's always a little bit of relief, even though you know the haircut you're doing. When it's live, I have to confess, there's always a little bit of relief and you think, yeah, it's worked, we're okay. So again, we want no other direction. We don't want section 4 to be leaning onto 3. We don't want section 3 to be leaning onto 4. We want them to meet in the middle, cancelling out any other direction and ensuring that all my sections of following the head shape and remain longer. So I'll come to my final section. Just turn around a little bit so you can see a bit more. Thanks for those hearts, whoever gave me those. Bit of encouragement, lovely. So you see that little trick really works. So then when we look at the shape, Phoenix, Arizona, I may be going there actually later in the year, so keep an eye out for that. So you can start to see the shape we have. We have this graduated look, quite flat, maintain length. We go into the sides, maintain that graduated feel, but we maintain length over the ear, whereas had we not have done the little scooping technique we've done, we'd have ended up going shorter over the ear, exposing them. So now we come to the other side. How the hell do we know what length to cut it? Well, I'm going to share a little tip with you. So put your section in the same way you cut the other side. One thing I need to do first is put a little clip on the other side. I need to be a bit consistent with that. There we go. Again, I'm using a hair art mannequin today. My clips are from Mozilla and Partners. So my scissors are Mitsutani, and my tripod is from Exalto Professional. So, as we are trying to get both these sides to be the same length, what I'm going to go through, you probably already guessed what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull a little piece down from here, and I'm going to measure it against my comb. This is not millimetre to millimetre accurate, because you're going to have some variations in how you've stood, how you've worked. Okay, so as I pull this down and I check it and I cut it, it gives me more of an indication. You see, I'm only about 2 mil off that now, so it's enabled me to get pretty close to the right length. Dancing with it now, my goodness. So I have my section. And again, do you remember how when I was at the back, I had to switch, didn't I, for my hands? It's the same thing now. I've got to create an artificial curve now from the longer point to a shorter point. Whereas when I did the other side, it was much easier for me because I was just doing my cutting slicing technique. So we are working the same way we just did. Thanks, Dominic. That's very kind of you, mate. I do appreciate that. Very, very kind of you. Okay. So again, whatever direction am I looking for? What shape am I using to create my horizontal shape here? Which shape would you think I'm using? If I was to say, I want no increase or decrease in length, traveling horizontal, what would you say I'm using? Which core shape am I using? You'd say round. A round shape will follow the head shape. The advantage of that means I do not build corners. I'm basically working, following the head shape with no increase or decrease of length. Yeah, I say I haven't done a live in quite a while. But to be fair, I've been so busy teaching just recently. It's been we can travel overseas again now. I'm thrilled to going back to Dubai in March, which is great. I should be going back to Mexico as well. So I've got loads of exciting things. So very privileged and very grateful. And again, going back to America as well. So that's even better, really. I love going to America. Okay. Same sort of shape where we've achieved the figure hugging graduated look and a more flatter but yet shorter and longer look at the sides. Now at this point, we're going to be drying the mannequin off actually. One of the main reasons I prefer to dry the mannequin at this point is I'd like to assess the outline of the haircut, making sure that it is correct. So at this point, even if I was doing my client on the salon floor, I wouldn't be nervous or worried about drying it. It's not a problem at all. The problem is it's going to be very difficult to find these exact same sections again. So it's pretty important that you work to create a shape that is correct and is viable, which means I need to dry it and make an assessment. I'm just using a 9-row vest brush that I got from Hairbrain. So the Hairbrain Pro Shop is fantastic. So I've took the nozzle off because otherwise it's going to dry too fast. I'm drying the hair in different directions, getting control of the root pattern. Swapping my hands. So again, the main purpose of a wrap dry is to wrap the hair around the contours of the hair, getting a great control of the roots. So now when I finish drying this, I'll really be able to get a real good assessment of where I need to add the texturizing, where I need to maybe shatter the hair, where I need to keep length. Using a Dyson hairdryer. I personally really like the Dyson hairdryers. I know not everybody's a massive fan, but I love mine. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. I'll get this dry as quickly as possible. Then you'll start to see me finish the shape off. Just on the very ends of the hair, you might want to switch to using a small bristle or round brush. It just, for me, I don't think I have that much skill with the wrap dry because I don't seem to be able to get the ends very straight when I wrap dry the hair. I seem to be fine with the root area, but when I come to the ends seem to be quite unruly. So I prefer to then grab a round bristle brush or a ceramic brush or something like that and just get that control of the hair. So again, I want to repeat that process. I started without the nozzle, so I have to be consistent. I didn't start with a bristle brush, I started with a 9-row vest, which I got from the Hairbrain Pro Shop. So you can always assess your shape by the silhouette as well. I'm a big believer in that. You know, if your silhouette is sitting nice, then you're onto a good one. You're onto a winner. If I see loads of inconsistencies in the way the shape is sitting when I look at the silhouette, I know that there's probably been some errors with my technique, which does happen. It happens to everybody, obviously, at some point or other. But then you want to learn from those things, assess why did they occur, what was the catalyst to them, and how do I learn, how do I develop, or where do I learn from, and who do I learn from. So again, I've just switched to my small wire spark brush. Okay, once I've got the underneath dry, I do go back to my little clips. I'm a big fan of using little clips as I'm cutting. As the hair is cooling, these will just hold the hair in place for me. Right, so we're going to start now with putting our outline in. So, first thing I prefer to do when I'm doing this type of shape is I like to grab my razor. I'm using a K-show feather razor with the obvious safety blade. I'm not that skilled with the razor, so you won't catch me using a cutthroat one. Not like my dear friend Jacob Khan, who's like a Jedi when he does it. So I'm going to go through this haircut and start with some surface cutting. So I'm going to hold the hair still, and I'm just going to start to cut the surface of the hair. Okay. So what on earth is this about? This is a little bit for me like flattening the top of my graduation off, but doing it in a way that is less neat and less precise than if I was going through and point cutting. So a way of shattering the top layer, removing the top cuticle, and making sure that the hair has a synergy from top to bottom, blends. So you see that immediately starts to remove some of the bulk for me. I've just switched on my little handheld GHDs, which are dead handy when you're doing something like this. Then I'm just going to swap back to my scissors and do some light point cutting. The purpose of the point cutting here is to create definition in the outline. But remember, the bulk, generally speaking, is often internal. The bulk refers to the density, which is the amount of hair in one place. How much hair is how tightly is the hair packed together. So when I've gone through and razor cut like this, I've not really diluted my haircut or lost definition. Whereas if I was going through with a pair of thinning shears, I'd probably have a greater risk of that. Just going to slightly bring those away off the ear, just very, very slightly. These are the GHD, what are they? Unplugged. So they are great though, they are a really nice tool. They're cordless straightening irons. So that's starting to give me a nice shape. Okay, so we're going to come to the other side now. When I texturize, I do like to do the same elements. This hair was disconnected. These two areas here will not blend if you cross-check them. So I do prefer to finish the texturizing in the same way, so I would work from side to side. I wouldn't always get too hung up in trying to do exactly the same amount of texturizing each side, because to be honest with you, not everyone's hair grows the same. Sometimes you'll find that you'll have a client where one side of their hair is more dominated by a hairline than the other. So you probably requires less texturizing on that side, because you need the weight to control how the hair springs around the hairline. Some parallel point cutting. Just a little gentle sway with that, just to pull the hair away. The mannequin head I'm using actually is really good. Hair art really do some nice mannequins, so I'm not in a massive need to straighten the, you know, I haven't really got any problems with the mannequin, so okay. So again, I'm going to start some surface cutting. One thing I like about this technique is I feel it's a little bit like when you see somebody using a pair of trimmers to encourage a silhouette or something. I feel it's similar, but it's not as aggressive. It's not as military looking. It's a lot softer looking. Yeah. I think that's the main reason I would use it. Yes, that's correct. The back and sides are disconnected. The sides have been cut with a round graduation, and the back has been cut with more of a vertical graduation. We will save the live as well, so you will be able to go back over and have a look at it. But this is one of the reasons why I like to do this now, because I think it's quite a lengthy process. You know, I wouldn't say lengthy, talking 5-10 minutes on the salon floor, but if you've got 45 minutes per appointment, you know, that does eat into it. And like I said, the sections are relatively intricate, so it can be quite a pain to try to find the same sections again if you needed to. So it's probably best to remove, dry off the sections you've already cut, and then look at resolving any issues you've got. No, you're welcome. Thanks for asking the question. I really appreciate it. So you can see we've got the shorter flatness from the section here. You've got a little bit more length as it comes around to the hairline, but visually it blends. But if you were to cross-check that, it wouldn't blend. You'd have shorter and longer pieces. So let the head drop down. I'm just going to go through and do a little bit of point cutting. So yeah, big thank you to Hairbrained again for allowing me to bring my work to you. It's a big honour. I've been a huge fan of Hairbrained for so long. It was one of the very first accounts I ever followed when I started having an Instagram account. And you can see the round horizontal shape there. That's what we want, but it is important to make the haircut more livable for the client. So a bit of a shattering technique around the top weight line is, I feel, quite viable and helps the haircut grow out a little bit better. Thanks to everyone who's tuning in to watch us. If you have just joined us, my name is Ben Brown. I'm all the way from the United Kingdom. I'm showing you a version of a short pixie haircut that is useful if you have a client that would like to keep length around the hairline, they've got a difficult, awkward hairline, a low hairline, whatever it is, and also we are looking at keeping a little bit of length over the ears but still having a short and textured haircut. Right, now we're going to come to these side sections. It's very kind of you, thank you. Come to these side sections here. We're going to release this section, okay, and we're going to take a section that is running parallel to the mapping section, okay. So as we come through here, like so. Now, when you now release this, it's very obvious that this has to be cut, but it's going to be cut pretty much horizontally. So when you've got the section from here, we're going to use this section, the top of the weight line, as a guideline. So you have to knit these two sections together. But the issue you'll have is if you lift it up here, there's a guideline. If I pull it down here, there's a guideline. So it's very confusing. So it's more important that you understand what elevation's doing. The lower you pull this section, the more length we're going to encourage on the top. Okay? The higher you lift the section, the less weight you're going to have, and the shorter the sections. So I can't really tell you the exact place to pull your section, because it will vary from client to client, and it will vary from hair type to hair type. If someone has incredibly thick hair, we may want to keep length here to reduce the expansion of the hair. If somebody has really fine hair, you may not have that issue. So we're going to take section 2, which is again parallel to the previous section. So pretty straightforward stuff at the moment. Section 2 is going to be elevated onto the base of section 1. Okay? So you see there's the base of section 1. There's where I'm elevating to. Cheers, class. I'm following the head shape here, so I'm not keeping a flat shape horizontal. I am following the head shape, which will inevitably go shorter into the front. You will end up with a very slight peak in the middle, which we'll remove with a razor when the hair's dry. But this is helping us to blend into the side sections, if you will. Yeah, I've always got loads from watching these lives as well. I don't know if you're the same, but I do enjoy clicking on to watch someone working, especially in the evening. You know, right now in the United Kingdom it's the evening, but wherever you're from, thanks for joining us and being part of this tutorial where I'm taking you through doing a short pixie haircut, but doing it with a little bit of disconnection so we can maintain length around the ear of our client and maintain length around the hairline. So I was trying to create more of a problem solving tutorial, I suppose, opposed to the usual. I always seem to cut a graduated bob. It always seems to be the thing I end up cutting. So I was thinking today I had this lovely mannequin and I was straight away almost thinking of cutting a graduated bob. And I was like, no, come on, let's do something different. So by doing that particular method, we're getting a slow increase of length, which is internal graduation, vertical. So the top section is longer than the first section, but the rate in which it's increased is slow. And we controlled that with moving the hair up and down. We didn't pull it too low, okay? So I'm going to go to the other side. What shape were you doing at the top? So the top is, well, still graduated, but it's called internal graduation. The distinction is, when we look to build weight, we are controlling it with a number of mechanics, but one of the main controls I'm using is elevation, which is moving the hair up and down. So because each section is traveling below its own base, we're going to be building weight traveling vertical. The rate in which we increase the weight and length is controlled by how high or how low we pull the section. I have my guideline here, and I make a decision to throw my comb on the floor, reload. I make a decision to bring my cutting section to the base of the guideline, which means section 2 will be longer than section 1. But there's not a rapid increase of length. If there was a rapid increase of length, you'd have more of a wedge-like shape, and we would call that external graduation. So I'm working with a soft graduated shape, more like a round, short round graduation. So again, I'm pulling section 3 onto the base of 2. One of the advantages, I suppose, as well of numbering your sections is you can make sure that you've done the same amount of sections each side. So if you're doing it, and I don't know, one side you're teaching somebody or you're doing it, and they have 7 sections, the other side you have 6, you know straight away there's one inconsistency. The section size is different on one side to the other, which will vary the results. Only slightly, but it will vary them. What you'll notice here is I'm actually following the head shape with my horizontal line. That's working across here. So that means we're not increasing the length towards the front. We're getting a shorter fringe effect, okay? The thing is, sometimes it's nice to see some hair come off a mannequin head. I really enjoy it when I'm watching a live and the person's really going at it. I watched Aaron Johnson a while ago do a shag haircut on a live model, and it was fantastic. I learnt tons from that. I think that's one of the things I love about Hairbrained is they make world-class educators accessible from the palm of your hand. Literally just from on your phone, you get a notification saying Hairbrained have gone live, and you get to watch amazing people cut, colour, style, unbelievable. Thanks, Sid. Hope you're well, mate. So you see, we're working up the head. This means each section is getting a little bit longer each time. Okay. So if we wanted to increase its length more rapidly, how would we have done that? Or would we have done a different technique? I would have done a different technique, because if I had pulled the weight line down low, you would have had almost an internal line. It wouldn't have blended in to what we've been doing with the haircut. If I wanted more length, I probably would have disconnected these two sections a lot more than we have. But the benefit of this is it helps us to work and stay connected to the graduated shape and create a more rounded short haircut, opposed to just a shorter cropped haircut. So I'm going to go back to my razor. So you see what's happened is, as we've gone a little bit longer each time, we've ended up with like the Eddie Munster little quiff in the middle. So we don't want that. That's not what the client's going to be happy leaving with. So I'm just going to remist the hair to give me a bit more control. The hair's drying out a little bit. I don't mind the hair drying. Sometimes I like the hair to dry a bit so I can see what it's giving me. But I suppose on a mannequin head, I want to keep it as much control as possible. So I'm going to take a diagonal section, working straight across the front of my section. This is because I can get a guideline from the corner, which is where I want to keep the length. Okay, I'm going to cut my fringe to work parallel to the way the hairline is sitting. Instead of cutting this straight, which then means if there's any movement here that's going to lift the hair up, it will look shorter in the middle than anywhere else, which I don't want. So I'm going to pull the hair down with my razor. One of my, I never really used a razor for many years, but then I started to, well, one of my biggest heroes is a guy called Gianni Scamacci, and Gianni uses it all the time, and he does some incredible work, and that really prompted me to learning. I started watching a lot of videos on the Hairbrained site, which by Gerard and Shay Dempsey, on how to use a razor. I learnt tons. It's brilliant. There's so much education out there. A little bit of surface cutting just to really thin out those ends. Now I'm going to pull these sections forward. I'm going to throw my razor back in my kit box and grab my scissors. You notice I won't be throwing my scissors. There's not a chance. I actually bought myself these scissors for my 40th birthday. It was during lockdown, and I thought, how depressing is that? Like, it's not how you think your 40th birthday is going to go, is it? But okay, so by doing that now, I have my fringe in place. I have room to play with this when the hair's dry. But now we have two sections left. Well, one big section left that we haven't cut yet, and that's the crown area. So you see, this area here enables us to control and leave the crown out to the end in case there's any difficult hair growth patterns or anything we want to work with. So I'm going to remove this section. take the section that's parallel to the way we've mapped the hair. The reason I like the curved sections is I feel it's more conducive to following the head shape. I think that's why I like it so much. If I just did a horseshoe section, you're kind of exposing a lot of the back, whereas this particular method can keep some length over the back. So my guideline is coming from the side, not the underneath. Let's move this mannequin down a bit so you can see. So I'm pulling my sections straight out from the head and I'm working them in round. Okay, so we're not trying to build loads of length in here. We want to try to keep this a little bit shorter. We're going to then take another section, working back up to the middle. So where do we think this is going to be over-directed to? Elevated to even, sorry. Because, see, I got that wrong then. Over-direction is side to side, but this is up and down. So this is going to be going back onto the previous section. Thanks everyone for joining us. If you have just joined us, my name is Ben Brown. I'm all the way from the United Kingdom, sharing my tutorial with you today, which is how to work with a short pixie cut, 2 different types of graduation to maintain length around the outline of the haircut, around the hairline and around the ears, but still have a short internal haircut. Okay, move back onto this side. We're getting there now, guys. We're getting there. What's nice about doing a live on Facebook opposed to doing a live on Instagram is Instagram just literally kicks you off after like an hour, and there's no timer, so you're literally like panicking. Think, oh my god! Any minute now, it's all going to go black. But that's the good thing about Facebook; they don't do that, so there's no worries. So you see again to the previous. This will be saved, so you can dissect it, go through it, look at it, pick at it. It's absolutely fine with me. That's the best way to learn. Is to ask a load of questions when you're watching something. Why does that happen? I do that all the time. I watch tutorials and I write down why I do this, why I do that, and then I'm able to go over and practice it myself with a different set of eyes, being intrigued by it and wanting to understand it, not just be able to repeat it. So I'm just going to switch the So again, I'm sort of loosely drying the hair without the nozzle initially. My only worry, especially with short hair, when I use the nozzle first, is I feel the hair dries a little bit too quickly. Oh, thank you, Donna. That's very kind of you. I will have some work to do on this when I finish drying it. Sadly, I'm not a magician, so we do need to go over certain parts of the shape when it's dry. you can start to, I suppose, see a little bit here where working the section flatter encourages the length to go forward more. So it's making the haircut, I suppose, more three-dimensional. Instead of just being like a crop, it's trying to think beyond the fundamentals but not forgetting them, I suppose. All these things I've done in this haircut are combinations of fundamental things. You know, I've always struggled with short hair personally. You know, on the salon floor, whenever I had a client booked in, and it would be like, oh, I've booked you one of these short hair clients, I'd be like, oh my God, I'd be dead nervous. But to quote like DJ, knowledge destroys fear, you know, it's just like what he says. You know, the more you know, the more you can do, I think. I don't think there's any magic around. I think it all comes down to a lot of hard work and a lot of practice, I suppose. And I feel what turned the tide with me it was learning, going back to basics and really learning the mechanics of hair cutting, because then it equipped me to understand the decisions people were making when they were cutting short hair. Not just following their haircuts step by step, but really understanding it. So I could alter it and adapt it. The client said, I actually don't want too much length around the hairline. I don't want it to look too mullety. I would be equipped to do something different and change it and not feel panicked. I feel like the more you know, the more in control you are. You know, like I don't colour hair at all. I'm absolutely terrible at hair colour. So if I had to do a colour for someone, I'd probably dry heave. I'd probably vomit. I'd be dead scared, dead nervous. And half the time I find, I mean, I'm very privileged to be able to teach people full time. I do travel to some wonderful places, meet some wonderful people, and I'm very fortunate for that. But one of the things I would say that I get from that is, I've always found that I've never really found someone that's nervous to colour hair, but I've found many people that are scared to cut hair. And sometimes I feel that's because a lot of the reasons behind what you do with colour are pretty standardised. Regardless even of the brand you use, the colour wheel is the same, you know? A lot of the reasons why you do something in colour, people generally understand it, you know? The peroxide you use are generally like a 20 volt, 30 volt, 40 volt. Yes, they are different from brand to brand, but they pretty much do the same thing, don't they? One will lift the underlying pigment 2 shades, will cover 100% of grey hair. And I think it's one of the hard things is that there's not much cutting theory, I suppose, that is the same as that, you know, that consistent, that strong. I personally, I've learnt masses, again, not to keep on talking about DJ, but I've just watched his class. I went and paid to watch his online class, and it was phenomenal in theory. Now here I'm just doing some slicing, some you know, tunnel cutting, channel cutting, whatever we're going to call it. Everyone seems to call it something different. So why do that? Well, I've done my razoring, and it's still very, very blunt. So I needed to do something else. And this is one of the most aggressive techniques I have at removing density. It really removes the bulk and helps to give me more of a defined look on the outline of my shape. So I'm going to take my next section, you see, just adds weight. You see, I always think texturizing a haircut is a little bit like the toner to a colour. What I mean is, I couldn't see the effects of this texture when the hair was wet. you couldn't really tone the hair until you washed off the bleach and had a look at what the hair was like. And so I tell people quite a lot that when you dry the hair and you have to remove a little bit of graduation, or you've got to take, you know, cut into the hair, remove some bulk, I tell them that's fine. You shouldn't have the expectation that it should be perfect, absolutely perfect. Because yes, whilst there should be some technical things that have been carried out correctly, you should also understand that there's quite a lot you have to do when the hair's dry. It's very visual. When it's wet, I think it's structural. When the hair is dry, I think it's more visual. Like now, I couldn't have, if I was doing this when the hair was wet, who would have known what I would have ended up with? I've been probably cutting a bit more blind. Yeah, do check out the Hairbrained Academy. There's the shade density tutorial, Gerard's, just unbelievable, and DJ's contemporary bobs. That's brilliant. He does like a box bob, and it's really great. I bought them, and it's just fabulous. I often say to people, the only thing your phone will give you is a bill. If but yet you have access to so much information and so many resources, you know. I mean, I couldn't cut hair the way I cut hair now 5 years ago. I retrained. When I was 34, I started to retrain. I'm now 41. So I did that. Social media really helped that, because it gives you so much access to people. So I'm just going through now, being relatively visual, to be fair. So I know that the education has kind of stopped a bit because I'm not really explaining as much as, but I am being quite visual. I'm looking at the hair. The dark mannequins are always a bit tricky to make look choppy. They're really good for a smoother look, but still at the same time, this is a lovely mannequin. I'm very lucky to have had this to work with. Okay. Let's have a little look at that fringe. That's starting to get there. Little surprised tone to your voice, was that bad? No, not at all. So what I look at is when I'm moving the hair, if it doesn't really stay where I move it, I know it's still too heavy. So if I'm moving the hair like this, and it just anchors down, I'm going to go back through it and do some more. When the haircut looks great without product, I know I've finished a short haircut. If I have to force it with product to look good, I know I probably haven't chosen the correct shape, you know. Cheers, Simon. Hope you're well, mate. Thank you, Donna. That's very kind of you as well. So again, look, I'm in my own little world now, and I'm just diamond slicing through here one way then the other. That's it. I'm going to say I've stopped. I'm just going to get my hairdryer, which accidentally dropped on the floor. When it comes to a mannequin hair, I'm not a massive fan of putting waxes in. I like to use a small amount of hairspray and then move the hair around. I'm just using a little bit of Sebastian here, but you can use any hairspray you like. And if you want to use a wax, use a wax. It's just, I quite like the feel of something light in the hair, like a hairspray, opposed to doing, can't wait to get back on Hairbrained debut. Oh, nice one. Definitely, guys, watch Simon. Brilliant hairdresser, really, really cool guy. Got a great insight to education, Simon, as well. Really cool guy, lovely bloke. We both auditioned at the same time for the L'Oreal ID Artist Programme. I'll never forget that, Simon. Just a different world, wasn't it then? That was back when I had my own salon. Jesus. So, we've kept the outline of the haircut very soft and very shattered. We've worked through the front with a rounded line, so it's followed the head shape. So it is actually a little bit longer in the middle, but it doesn't look it. And that also enables us to move the hair from side to side. So if I want a fringe that's going to be interchangeable, I always try to make it slightly rounded in the middle so I can move it from either side. I'll tell you what, look at the old eyelashes on her as well. Wow, look at that. Fleeking. So as I come through here, you'll see that the shape was much flatter here and much flatter through there. By using the slicing technique, we were able to maintain and keep length towards the front and create a shape, I suppose, that was interchangeable. It still looks expensive, it's still got a graduated feel, but it is a nice short pixie haircut, keeping length and keeping weight around the ears and the hairline. Any questions at all, guys?